Guys, thank you for joining us for the this is the third episode, I guess, of our What's Your Why trading series. So this whole series is based around the questions that we feel every trader needs to be asking themselves. Why are you doing what you're doing? And that applies at a day, moment to moment, day to day level of why you're placing your trades, all the way down to why are you trading? Why are you here? What is your greater purpose, and how does trading fit into that? So part of the way that we're exploring this is by bringing on some of the best traders from the Sang Lucci and Wall Street Jesus steam room. We had a great interview last week with Anwar Brownman from the steam room, interviewed Lucci himself as well. And then now we've got, we're lucky enough to have Tim Frohling here, also known as Optiontr8er, TR8ER trader from the steam room. So Tim, why don't you say hello to everybody here?
What's up, guys?
And we are going to be going through a lot today. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, all you have to do is throw them in the chat, and we'll do a Q&A towards the end of the webinar. Tim's going to be covering a lot of ground, the technical side of things, the psychological side of things. I'll let him explain a little bit more about his background and his approach, but in summary, he is a very good marriage of technical analysis as well as flow trading. So kind of two sides, of what goes on in the steam room. And I think that's where we should start. So Tim, why don't you start out with just a quick background, a couple minutes on yourself,
Sure.
how you came into trading, and then how you would describe your style right now.
Yeah. So first off, totally humbled to be on here. I'm so thankful to have found the steam room and the flow and some good, both good kind of mentors and Luch and some of the guys, and then also just some good camaraderie and stuff. So there's so much value that I see in this, and just so thankful for that. So I want to thank you guys for bringing me on. Again, totally humbled, and if I can add one little bit of value for one person out there, hopefully that makes it worth it for you guys. So with that said, so a little background on me. I did a little webinar, what was it, like a year ago, or I don't know, something, but just kind of from Southern California, kind of always interested in financial markets, grew up playing golf competitively and kind of living at the golf course. So a lot of the older guys just had CNBC and Bloomberg on, and just kind of started to ask some questions because I didn't want to just sit there bored, and eventually just learned to love the equity markets. And I then went to school up at I'm a Bruin up at UCLA, and had a good time up there, and did a little bit of trading, kind of '06 to '08, more for my family a little bit, and kind of helped them out, and they actually did pretty well, and got a couple years of school kind of compensated for it, so that was nice.
That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. And well, some of the people too, I'll mention this real briefly, because it'll tie back into some stuff later. There was a trade during that time. I've told a few people in the room, posted it a couple times, but it's in a pharmaceutical name. I had about $30,000 of calls for my mom at the time, and I think they were about 10 weeks out, and big FDA approval decision, and our options had tripled just because the IV had skyrocketed. And long story short, 60 grand was a lot, could pay for a couple years of school, and just felt fortunate to take it off the table going into a major decision.
Right.
So I took it all off the table, and that's that 90 grand total actually would have been almost like 4.5, 5 million, because it jumped from like 25 to 75 in like 4 days. It was just one of those things where, but through that process.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, yeah. So through that process, I was doing at the time didn't really have a ton of knowledge in the option space. Was going really far out in time, and doing some a lot more swing trading, and on this particular position, just a really good lesson in psychology and how you have to kind of work through something like that. And it even took me kind of out. I stepped away for a while until 2014, namely because I wanted to get my start in some career stuff and some entrepreneurial endeavors, and but that was an interesting thing that we'll touch on a little bit later, psychologically. But
right. The psychology of risk management and hindsight keeping you up at night, right? I'm
yeah,
sure
totally.
you
Totally.
experienced plenty of that.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, I mean, let's start out with, I mean, we can go, there's a lot of different directions we can go with this, and we talked a little bit about some of the, some of the trades that you wanted to go through, but I think it'll be, by way of introduction, a good way to start, and we'll be talking about some of the more psychological side of things. So almost starting in the reverse order of how we order these questions, and talking about, with you, we've talked about in the series, there's a lot of different versions of success that traders have, right? For some people, that's working a certain amount of hours and a certain amount of money. For others, it's their process and, holding themselves to a certain standard on a day-to-day basis. How would you describe what your version of success is? Like, what's a really good day of trading for you look like? And what does that look like on a larger time scale?
Sure. Yeah. No. It's a big question, so I've got some really interesting, hopefully unique answers.
Right.
Um, you talk about the why quite a bit too, and how that kind of motivates you. I've always believed in if the why is strong enough, it'll pull you, and you'll find the how.
Hmm.
Some way, somehow you'll find it. You'll find a way to make it happen. And so for me, trading is it's a really good vehicle. And this is a really important thing that I really want a lot to share with a lot of people on here is that it's not it's a vehicle. It's not my destination, and it can be different for you guys, but
Well said.
um, yeah, you really like. It's such a the reason why I love trading is because I can travel all over the world and trade from a laptop. And I'm not saying this is easy. Please don't take that. Okay, there's been a lot of
Train from the
pain, a lot of,
pool in
yeah,
Bali or something like that.
yeah,
Yep.
no, for sure. There's been a lot of learning lessons along the way, but there is so much um, flexibility both in time and financially. It's just the freedom that you get. Life's just too short just to sit slaving away at something. And so I'll say that kind of off the top, but I'll also say that just speaking to a larger purpose in trading and what it means to me, like I would really caution a lot of people that, and I told Charlie this example. I stayed at the Wynn. I used to go to the Wynn every once in a while, the Wynn Casino out in Vegas here and there, and and there's a golf course, really nice track. It's on the strip, great location.
Right.
And Steve Wynn, who obviously created the whole resort, hired Tom Fazio, great golf course designer. And Tom Fazio is on this video and talks about dealing with Steve Wynn, and it was just fascinating to me. Really, really bright point, that we can extrapolate to trading. And he said, this is again the golf course designer talking, and he goes, when I met Steve Wynn, he said, I want to design an environment, a really cool, amazing, unique environment. Makes you feel like you're in no other place in the world. And then I want to put a golf course inside of it.
Right.
And that kind of thinking is just revolutionary. It's a whole different flip on. It's not like, oh, I'm going to build a golf course and then create some cool stuff. It's no,
And put some stuff around it. Yeah.
yeah. So in liken it to trading, guys, it's like I want to really encourage you all to build a great life, and then put trading inside of it. Trading
Right.
is not the be all end all, and that kind of pressure will crumble 99.9 out of 100 guys out there. And I don't even know if it's worth it for the one guy who makes it through
Yeah, I was
using.
gonna say, even if you make it through, you're still not coming out ahead of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would encourage too. It's like, I don't know if you feel this way, Charlie, but again, so thankful to find this and this great vehicle. And I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur at heart, and had
Yeah.
part of my background. I had a little mobile app company back in the day, and I've hit some fun little base hits here and there. But like if someone drops or not drops, but let's just say I go on a crazy run, make 30, 40 million in the next 18 months, like that's great. But I've just moved numbers. I've moved numbers around. What value have I provided to the world? So
Right.
it's you got to go back and, like, again, going back to the why, like make something bigger than just trading. Like whether it's what you do with the proceeds, or what your like real passion is long term, but don't have this be the be all end all. Have this be a great vehicle for you to achieve good success, or give you time freedom. Like like I use it for to really help people or all of the above. It's a lot bigger than that. So that's just kind of one encouragement that I give there. But
I love the Steve Wynn story. Yeah, this that concept of
it's a random one, yeah, for sure.
no, but it's great. I mean, that concept of it's kind of like don't let the tail wag the dog, you know, like your purpose. People get so focused on the purpose of trading is saying profits, right? Because profits are what? A means to an end for security, for freedom, for a sense of respect and accomplishment and all these things. But then they lose sight of everything they're doing and they just become so narrowly focused on profits that it becomes often self-sabotaging or they make that money and they realize they completely forgot about why they're doing it, right? But you're saying visualize your life, visualize the life that you want to have, and keep that goal in mind, and then put trading, in the middle of that as a vehicle to that as a way to get there. But it's a means to an end. It's not the end in of itself.
Yeah, no, and it's I think my memory is a little bit frail, but I think it was like I think it was Maya Angelou or someone used to talk about, like people won't remember like what you say, maybe what you did, but like they'll never forget how you made people feel. And it's like the biggest ideas out there, entrepreneurially or whatever, like they appeal to our emotions. Those are the strongest things. And like as traders, we have to know that. I mean, shoot, on some bad trades, you'll really feel your emotions, So,
Right, right,
but again, going back to like nothing's gonna work unless you do. If you don't work, like don't think for a second that, and this is again, I'm not preaching here, guys. I am flawed just as anyone. I want to please like encourage you guys. I'm just learning every day like you guys are. But again, coming to the market, like you got to ask yourself, you have to let yourself first of all, you have to let yourself control what you can control and forget the rest.
yeah,
And you just got to let it be. And it's a tough thing to do, obviously, but it's really critical to success. And it goes back to, if you're not good without the money, if you're that's one of your goals to make, let's say trying to make 100K or a
yeah,
million or shoot five, like maybe 5,000. I mean, whatever size account you have, like I have to encourage people, if you're not good without the money, you're not going to be good with it. Like
right,
trust me. Like
right.
so
And this and
yeah,
that's the
Luke
kind of thing that
knows
is
this,
so hard. It's so hard for, I don't know. I'd ask you this, like, because I'm yet to talk to somebody who's successful in trading or otherwise who wouldn't say that, who doesn't say that. And yet it is such a hard thing to accept when you haven't been, when you haven't crossed that threshold, right? And do you think it's something that has to be experienced in order to learn the lesson? Because Lucci sometimes talks about that. Like he's an experiential learner. For him, he had to experience making millions to learn that it wasn't going to fill the holes that he thought it was going to fill, right? But there are other people who said I couldn't have made that money if I didn't learn to, be okay with myself and have that degree of self-acceptance and have a bigger vision of my life that took the pressure off of making,
well, and that's why I mean, that's the tough real answer there, but I think that's why we're having something like this. Hopefully, is again, if we can have one trader out there, a couple traders, really take this to heart who maybe haven't experienced massive loss yet, and really listen to this and going, hey, there are some veterans out there, both Lucci and Brown and Ronchero in a couple of days. Like there are some great resources for you guys to just like to totally circumvent all the
right.
pain, all the
Save
pain, but a
yourself the
lot of
pain.
pain.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, man. Yeah, that's what we're trying to
It's
do.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, come on, like I hope there's a couple out there that'll heed the warning and the advice, but you never know. But that's why it goes back to like the bigger picture, like just and then just for me again, some traders, I'm sure, I maybe Tudor Jones or some of the big dogs, they could be like going through a really maybe tough stretch of life personally or whatever, and but for me, it's so like trading for me, and this is why it's fascinating. It goes back to the why again. So fascinating for me that it's tied so much to my state and how like am I growing as a human being, and like my best self is pushing myself, building new skills, playing music, having fun with friends, building like learning new skills, maybe learning a couple new languages, travel in the world, like that's pushing myself. And Are you going to fall on your face 100 times?
Right.
But that's I- it's part of the process, and like if you got to push yourself. And so
Right.
I just,
Right.
again, encourage everyone, build that life, like build the foundation, build some great friends, and like, dude, trading is, it's one part of it. And I guarantee you, if you're good in a lot of other areas of life, it will only help your trading. If you're using trading for like the, oh shit, I gotta make it, like that's, oh,
Right.
it's a stressful place to be. And I only like laugh because at certain points in my life I've been there. Like, so that's that's all.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, we and Luke and I talked about it last week on our webinar, where I was asking him these questions, and we talk about like the influence of being under pressure from your own ego and from needs that you think that are psychological that need to be fulfilled via your profits in the markets. And it Lucci went through a lot of the times that it motivated him to make decisions that were not the best trading decisions. And I think one of the things we're seeing with him now over the last 18 months and especially over the last like year and 6 months is that he's always been able to put up huge numbers because he's always had the skill sets that we teach, in the master course of tape reading and options, everything like that. But he would sometimes give it back because he was pushing himself too hard for reasons for his ego and stuff like that.
yeah,
And he's at a different place in his life right now. He's made adjustments outside of the market that are paying huge dividends in terms of his trading. And then he's in this feedback loop of one is having a positive impact on the other. And I think that's what you're alluding to as well. It's like one supports the other, one begets the other. If you can get into that interplay between, having a healthier perspective in life outside of the markets, that will, further your efforts in the markets.
because here's the just, let's just call it out. Like, guys, not all of you will make money. Like, I could blow up tomorrow. I could be an idiot and make
Right.
one bad trade and blow up tomorrow, or Lucci. Like, so you have to ask yourself, like, why not become a better human being along the way? And then if you lose everything, at least you're a freaking better human being, and you can get right back and keep
It's
going.
your
You've got,
hedge. That's your
yeah,
hedge. Yeah.
you got your head, you got your skills. Like, you can always, people don't believe this. You
Right.
can always get more money, man. Mental capital is, you have to protect it.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
protect it.
That's a good way to put it, man. That is a good line.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah, your mental
and
capital is
you're asking,
precious.
just one quick random thing, because I know you were asking some other questions, and I didn't mean to
Yeah,
go too much on a tangent,
that
but
no worries.
you're
No worries.
talking about what does success look like to me?
Right.
And yeah, I want to make sure I answer. That's an important question. I feel like, you know, success in in life, it's a broader question, and we can go into that in a different time. But it's just, as far as trading success to me is, again, it's like, can I use this as the vehicle to improve my life, to improve the lives of others? Can I help people through this? Can I inspire some great change? Can I have people to, and so it's like, it's trading can be a very lonely endeavor. And I think in that way you can have some real struggles. And I think that's, again, why I'm, just from my perspective, so thankful to be part of the room and meet a
Right.
lot of great people on here. And I know a lot of us are talking about some fun meetups in person in the future, and it'll be fun, and maybe go see Luch in PR or something. But
Right.
again, it's
We're,
like,
we're, we're thinking about that. We're thinking about like a summit version of the master course.
yeah,
You know,
that'd be
we'll get
fun.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking to like maybe a point that maybe I don't know if most people would mention, but like success in a very, I don't want to talk too much in the clouds, in a very real way to me, like, yes, I have financial goals, but if I, for example, if I, a day that I lose money and I can go out with friends or family and put all that shit behind me and actually have a real, and be present and be with them and have a great time, that to me is a successful day. It has, like, you
Yeah.
have to be very careful of tying your profits, your P&L, as I know you guys have talked about recently, to, yeah, your emotional state. How are you? That's gambling, dude. I don't, and Jay talks about it in gambling analogies, and I've had some funny places. I've played poker and all that stuff, and 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 like action time to time when I go to Vegas. But again, you have to go back to, like, I look at some, speaking of the gambling thing I was telling you, it's you see guys at, like, sports bettors or whatever, like, yeah, they may have not worked a day in their life, but they're stressed. They're like 80
Yeah.
pounds overweight. They hang in a casino all day. Like, is that a
Well,
life?
yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's not a
Right.
life. That's what I'm saying. Make
Yeah.
something of yourself.
Right.
Like, success is something you attract by the person you become. Like, become a good individual. Like, and I'm telling you, the more you work on yourself, like, and go to work on your goals, they'll go to work on you type of thing. So
And
you know,
and at the end of the day, like it's not even, we're talking about it. You said you don't want to kind of go into the clouds, and I agree. Like you want to keep this grounded and kind of practical. And there's like an ethical and existential nature, element to what you're talking about. But there's also a very practical element. You're talking about preserving mental capital. Like the difference between you getting done with a losing day trading and going and sitting in a dark room and being pissed at yourself and ruminating on it and looking at other people on Instagram and comparing your
yeah,
P&Ls to them and blah blah blah, and just going into this dark hole, waking up the next day, dragging yourself out of that dark hole and trying to trade, trying to execute mentally, trying to be present, trying to take in all the inputs that the market has and execute at the top of your abilities. That version of you versus the version of you that shuts off the screens, look over what you did, and of course don't avoid looking at the markets, but goes out, hangs out with family and friends, as you said, is able to chill out, blow off some steam, has perspective. That version of you wakes up the next day a lot more refreshed and able to take on the markets in the way that you need to. So it's not just about like, aspirational thinking. It's practical, right? I mean, it's
no, totally.
grounded in
That
your
actually lends
ability.
itself to a really good point too. Is that I've kind of written down in my notes here. It's just the importance of structure for traders, especially if you're even considering full time. And Charlie, interrupt whenever you can. This is to me has been such a huge thing because I've always been entrepreneurial and I've had some real estate stuff. Like I said, was in the mobile app game for a little bit, and so it's like, dude, I haven't had structure, and so like at times that can implode the whole thing. You have to build in, especially like if I can speak to anything practical, again, really practical for people to take away, and again, not just be in the clouds, is that your morning routine is, to me, it's everything. Like I would encourage you guys to, and I was the last guy to ever admit this or like say this, but I would encourage you guys to explore like meditation, whether it's for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, five
Now,
minutes.
now you're talking my language. Now you're talking
No,
dirty.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Like,
dude, it's so valuable to put yourself in the right state. You
yeah,
know. Um. Anyway, yeah. Speak to some of
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean I mean having and meditation is huge, but this is also one of the things that we're adding into the master course this next time around is writing, having a sort of a journaling, a writing practice, right? And having something that increases your capacity for reflection and self-awareness is huge. And then doing that on a routine basis, giving yourself that structure where you have that place and that those steps where you can go and you're going to say, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do these things. It gives you just ground to stand on as you go into the day, and you feel so much more stabilized when the world is going to throw at you whatever the hell it's going to throw at you, no matter what's happening in the markets, any kind
Yeah,
of volatility or whatever.
you're in a good state, ready to go. Like that's why, like if you, I think a lot of people have experienced, especially traders and stuff. If you just wake up, roll out of bed, it's 6:20, like again Pacific time most of the times, but like
Right,
10 minutes before the market open, you're like, oh, okay, great. Scramble through your watch list, and again, I've done it, so I'm like speaking from experience here. Like
right,
it's not, you're not in the right state. Like
right.
whether you make money that day or not, you're not in the right state. Like
Yeah,
and then gosh, what if you lose massively that day? Then you don't work out, you don't go
yeah,
hang out with people, then it goes into that dark tailspin. Whereas if you woke up at an hour previous, get in a little physical exercise, put a little something healthy in your system, meditate for 5 minutes, shoot 3 minutes, 1 minute, just whatever you can.
yep,
Look at your bigger term goals, look at your why, like who, like that's bigger than trading. That's
yeah,
those kind of things are really what I would speak to as far as again, because there's so many elements of trading and whether you're going to be a success or not. And it's just it's the thing you can guarantee and can control is like whether you personally are a success. Trading might not be, and that's where like
right.
one thing that Charlie, I don't know, I'd love to get your take on this is you know like just because like just because this may not like this may be for you guys. This may be a great little vehicle, maybe a permanent thing, and it may also not be for you. And so it's like, and that's okay. You're not a failure because it's like actually the true killer entrepreneurs, actually one of their best skill sets, in my opinion, is they know exactly when to cut a loser.
Yeah,
So it's
totally.
like guys, you have to be aware if you're making the same mistakes after 4 or 5 10 years, like you gotta like either gotta
Yeah,
do something radical for something, or you gotta change the whole paradigm. It's just, but again, like leaving the game does not mean you personally are a failure. Like trading is not for everybody. right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying
It's
to, again, I'm not trying to scare people off, so I apologize. But
no.
just
People should
like,
be. And that's one of the things we preach all the time from on talks like this in the master course in the steam room. And I think that goes hand in hand with trading might not be for you, but it also means like the style that you're targeting might not be for you. You have to have an open mind to that. You have to be open to that. And that's what we're going to get in. We're going to talk about specifics of trades you've taken down and sort of your style of trading. It's different than Lucci's. It's different than Jesus's. It's different than a lot of the other guys in the room. You found out what works for you. That's a very difficult process to go through and to put yourself through on its own. But if you are resolute on saying, I have to do it like this guy's doing it because that way promises X amount of money a month or blah blah blah, you just don't have a shot. It's never going to work. Like, you have to learn the skill sets, you have to then accumulate the experience, and you have to apply it, customize it to a way that works for you. That's the only way to do it. You can't just replicate exactly what
no, and that's
somebody
why
else.
that's you guys bring so much value in these webinars, just because, again, you're bringing on different traders. I mean, again, I'd love to do what Brown does, but I don't know if that's really. I'm trying to maybe hold things a little bit longer and learn a little bit of that of what he does, but not really. It's a whole different style than mine, and so
Yeah,
I can appreciate it, try to incorporate some aspects, but again, just it's great that you guys are providing a platform for people to realize, okay, there's a lot of different styles here, and
yeah,
whether it's Jay or Brown's doing more scalping and some lottery trades, or whether it's some guys in the room that do whether it's Ranchero doing a lot of a lot of premium selling and just so many different aspects. You can really find your niche through these guys, and so yeah, I just encourage a lot of you guys to use those resources. And speaking of too, there's so many good resources that are free out there, but you have to also, again, be so careful. There's so many
yeah.
frauds and pitfalls. So it goes back to a lot of your trusting your gut. We always talk about trusting your gut and trading, and it's so critical as far as the advice is concerned. It's just, hey, what resonates with you, and if your gut's saying, I don't know about this, probably
Yeah.
don't trust it.
Listen
So
to that. Yeah, listen to that. And I think people have a much better bullshit meter, a much better smell test capacity than they give themselves credit for, especially when they step back and they really assess, are the claims that this person's making, or, does this seem like it's actually true? Does it seem like they're appealing to, the part of my brain that's just like craving dopamine all the time? Or are they actually speaking authentically into something
no,
that I think is feasible and real? And yeah, you got to have your head on a swivel for that. And Norris,
sometimes. Yeah, too,
sorry.
Charles. Sometimes too, I think Jay would be an interesting person to ask on this one. But I think subconsciously, going back to the gambling and like analogy, it people actually, they won't admit this, but subconsciously they actually want to lose. Like, they get a bigger high from losing.
Yeah,
And you have to ask yourself, like, are you gambling, or are you trading? There are different. If you want to gamble, there actually are smart ways to gamble.
yeah,
Like, but and have fun with it. I mean, just have a total riot, put away, money that you can, and that's where you could have some real fun with, brown strategy, for example, or silver, where you can hit some 5, 6, 10 baggers. And if
right.
not, no big deal. Like, if you lose it, who cares? Have fun with it. It's
You're
just like
gambling. You know what you're doing
you're
going into
gambling.
it. You're gambling.
But
Yeah,
to
yeah,
really clarify what it is for you is such an important skill set, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah.
When I get muddy on that, that the losses start to pile up for sure.
Right, right. Norris is talking about fasting. Norris, I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. I mean, this is stuff that, like, we talk about going back to meditation, journaling, things like that, like the ways that you make yourself a more complete person. Sometimes people think about these things as, oh, this is going to make me 50% better, 100% better. Sometimes it's like 5% or 10%. It gives you this edge. But when you
Have a
do
compound, like, it's traders
yeah,
compound interest, right? Like, Norris,
right,
like, so if you get 1% better, like, every day, and compound that, dude, in
right,
3 years, you're a killer. I don't care
right.
where you're coming from. Like, it's like, are you
Yeah,
kidding me? Like, you
and
don't
you
have to.
add
That's a bad, actually, mental process to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to double my productivity by tomorrow. Because what'll happen is you won't do it, you won't hit
right,
your goal, and you'll stay in the cycle of, like, quasi depression, not hitting these things. Better to
right.
just build slowly. Like, momentum is a beautiful thing. Like, get some momentum,
Yeah,
positive.
yeah,
So,
yes. All right. Well, speaking of
yeah,
momentum, All right, we've
Cool.
been talking about the psychology, the psychological side of things. Let's get into the questions that I think will probably tie more into your examples, your
Absolutely.
trade examples, like the
Yeah.
more recent ones. So, like, why are you trading? Is the question, and let's take it from the perspective of like, why are you getting into this trade? What are you seeing that
Sure.
is when you go through your trade process that is signaling to you, all right, now it's time to pull the trigger.
Yeah. So,
And if you want me to pull up which one of these visuals, let me know. I'll throw it on the screen.
cool, yeah, like I'll give the overview in just 2 seconds,
Okay.
and then we'll get into those
Yep.
particular ones. Yeah.
Yep.
So with the I trade off of three bigger concepts. One being the flow,
Mhm.
two in no particular order, but two being really basic technical patterns and analysis, support and resistance, some patterns. Again, we can go over a couple today, but if you guys have real detailed questions, you can hit me up on Twitter at Optiontr8er or whatever. I'll send you some stuff. But and then third is open interest and how that plays a role, whether it's you get the occasional like delta hedging and you can get a really fast move, or you just can be aware of some really high open interest and be aware of kind of where the market makers are where they're at risk. And so those kind of three bigger ideas is what I think encompasses like, okay, my metric for trading. And then more detailed, I would say I would say the flow would be number one for me. And
Mhm.
and I'll go into, I've gone into kind of previous webinars I've had and stuff, but on the flow, but I'll go into a little bit of it so you guys can see. And then again, using those basic technical patterns. So the best thing for me, in answer to your question, is if I can have like let's say a technical pattern, and then have a sweeper come in right there where I'm seeing that's just that they can't get like the odds for me are really high that trade will be a success. And so that's where we can maybe pull up one trade right now if you want to,
Yeah.
Charlie. Is that I think it's the second thing that I posted. Yeah, is the white is that Tesla kind of shorter term. It's that 15-minute chart.
Okay. Let me pull it out of the Steam room, guys. Let me know if you can see that on the screen. You should be able to,
Yeah,
but
that's the one. Cool.
cool, cool, cool.
So explaining this one here. So again, you can kind of tell these horizontal lines, a 15-minute chart. So again, not a major time frame, but for an intraday trade, it's definitely worth looking at. You can see that this level, what is it, the 313. And again, this is back in late December, but you can see that 15-minute level on the support side down around 313 was a
Hmm.
level. Once it broke it, on the 24th when we had the market flush day, obviously led to more losses. Then once it was recouped, it hit the top of that kind of resistance, that top support or resistance line rather that I have drawn at like 327 or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can see those kind of areas were important. So I had that written, just something that I had looked at in my overnight research, and then again late on the 28th, I believe, yeah, or 20, sorry, late on the 27th, then I posted in this little graphic here. Yeah, there was a little sweeper in Tesla, and again, pairing the ideal is pairing technicals with the flow.
Hmm.
And I'll again go into more specifics of what I look for in the flow, but I just wanted to show this chart because it's a really good example of saying, hey, look, I'm already looking at some technical stuff. Sweeper comes in actually before it really breaks back over that 313 whatever level that was, um, and he paid $4.75. You actually could have waited for that to completely break over that area, have a nice 15-minute close over that area, then get in. You would have paid again around $6.80. I notated that in this little graphic here, playing for at least a touch of that top resistance line. And again, so you're incorporating flow and technicals. And again, once you tap that, I think I hit 19 on that contract. So even if you would have waited $6.80 to 19 off of that resistance tap, and obviously it went higher, but that's not really the point. It's more, hey, I had a thesis coming in, the flow confirmed it, and that's the kind of trade that on an intraday trade was really good for what I look for.
And so you said you had a thesis coming in, and how much of that? Because a lot of you're talking about flow. right now from a very sort of actionable immediate perspective, but I know that there's a lot of guys in the room, and Jay among them, who use flow for just overall sentiment. Like when you're forming that overall thesis, how much does flow? Can you talk about that process for you?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So what I do kind of top down on that, I really I follow about 18 names. Let's
hmm
say, four index names um and then 14 or 15 other names. I'm just not a believer in being able to trade the whole market. If you're doing equity, I think it's easier, but again, on options, I have to focus my energy to be successful.
right,
And so I'll come in and I'll have levels on those names, and sometimes those names will have some good patterns. Um, I'll already have those patterns kind of ready before the day comes in, and then such a huge, huge, huge component of this entire equation is what you talked about, sentiment. And Jay, talking about put call ratios and short-term trader sentiment chart that he posts, and the Nova Ursa, and there's some trade, there's some charts in there that really are the NIMO too. It's you can really see where sentiment is, and that's where you come in with, hey, either I need to be just a little bit careful if we're 75 on the squeezometer, you know uh, sentiments totally cooked short term. I just, you want to be a little bit more cautious. But if we're, you know let's even say just, mid to late December, um, where things were just incredibly oversold, sentiment was hideous. At that point, I'm looking for some reversals and some things to to go the other way on. And again, it's not, you don't always time things perfectly. And to be really honest, on speaking of the late December move, like I think I was hurt then, like that last day and a half, but then made, because I was a little bit early. But again, when you pair the flow with sentiment and those readings that Jay provides,
right.
and the charts, it's like that's where just the best lineups can come from. And so,
And that just increases the probability of the
yeah, it's
setup
all
being
we talked
successful.
about. Brown talked about it. Probabilities are kind of everything.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta, and you have to accept it either way. I mean, if you take a good trade, and that's why I was talking a little earlier too. Like, hey, if I take 5 trades for the day, and let's say 4 don't work out, let's say all of them don't work out, but I had the right process, like
Right.
that's a good day. Like you know, I'm not a believer in, your daily P&L is really, really indicative of how you traded that day. It's
Right.
now over a year, totally. Over 6 months, yes. But like on one day, like again, you can have a great process and just lose that day. That's all right. You got to accept that. And if you can't accept that, goes back to the bigger point of, hey, this might not be for you. Like you have to accept that as a trader. Like it's process focused. Charlie, you've talked about it last webinar too, I think with Brown, and you guys were talking about it. It's so key
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
how you get into it. So it's yeah. So again, getting specifically into the flow and how I incorporate that. So I've mentioned a couple sentiment indicators, and then specifically what I look for just in the flow, it's size orders. Let's take the indexes for example. I really have tracked for the last 2.5 years or so, what indexes respond best to the flow. I think
hmm
for a lot of the loyal guys in here, and the members and stuff, the Neil Diamond, the DIA sweepers were really, really on the last 8 months. Now we haven't had one in 2 or 3 months, unfortunately, but to know that really, like, some names, whether it's ETFs or individual names, really respond better to flow than others. And so that's where I try to center my watch list around. Um, and so, like I said, DIA is a great one. IWM, it can be great, but again, that's one that I'm a little bit cautious of, because a lot of the big boys, I've learned, use that for a hedging instrument. And so, you have to take some of that with a grain of salt. But again, looking for, let's take SPY for example. You look for, back-to-back orders, over 100K. Like, so let's say for, let's a real example. There was about a month ago, maybe I don't know, maybe more. There was like 5 or 6 sweeps over 150,000 bucks, either like with one day till expiration, and they were right at the money or just slightly out of the money. Um, So, maybe 1.1, 1.2 million overall. That's exactly what I would look for
Mm.
is confirmation that, hey, there's a move coming, because repeat orders, size orders, that can create a lot of momentum. And again, going back to technical stuff, if you compare it with technicals, then it's like triple the power, and the probability you'll succeed. So, as far as the individual names that, in my experience, that have been really, really good for sweeper activity, and I'll go into one example today. Charlie was asking about it. A lot of you guys probably caught it in the room. For Amazon, one of the best, that just responds really, really well to, again, size orders. Um, Google, both the GOG and GL, responds pretty well. If you see a sweeper and I've talked about this a lot, but if you see a sweeper in Booking.com or the old Priceline, those things are so rare. Like, it's
Right.
you almost follow one of those things blindly again. But what I look for is size orders near the money. So either really slightly in the money, at the money, or just out of the money. I don't just, for my personal strategy, I don't look for um, super lottos. But again, if you see a name like, I will mention something like a Microsoft. There were some trades last week. They were hitting the 115 line over and over again, and there was one bet in particular that really drew my attention, and it was like 900. It wasn't, again, because there was just so many orders in the same line. What I thought was creating a lot of momentum. And again, Microsoft does respond, is one of the names that I think responds pretty well to flow. Guy paid 27 cents, I think, for about 950 contracts or so, if my memory serves me right.
Hmm.
Um, and that thing went to 59 cents, I believe, the next day. So you could hit your double, which for
Right.
me, kind of like more my strategy. I kind of tend to look for the double, then take, at least take 2/3, maybe leave a little house money for it. I'm trying to get better at that, and
Hmm.
consulting with Ronchero and Silver and Brown on how to do that. But really looking for the double on those. And what's neat about that one in particular, that one went to over $2. So it's like, dude, these, like, for almost a 9x. So it's it's going back to really recognizing what names respond best to the flow,
Right. Right.
and adjusting your strategy accordingly. And that's totally in my opinion. Again, it's been 2.5 years or so that I've kind of kept track of orders and what responds well and what doesn't. And so those are some of the names that I look at. Speaking of the Amazon trade today, I know, Charlie, you were going to ask about it. So,
Hmm.
guys, a guy came in today, and I'll post at least the orders. I think I have a screenshot of the order. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. I'm posting it. Okay, I'm just posting in the room for. Let's see here. Hold on. Yeah. So as I'm posting it here, let's see. We'll load up. Yeah, Charlie, it should come out in the main chat there. Yeah. So a
Perfect.
guy came in Friday, kind of midday. These times are Pacific time, but came in and hit Amazon twice. Again, repeat action in Amazon. Huge size, 1.7 million on the sweeper side. Again, I'm not a big believer in blocks. Same with Jay. I really focus my action on sweepers only.
Right.
Um, and he hits it once for $20, and that got me and some people in the room already excited about it. And then that second bet that was 40 minutes later for actually a little bit cheaper, that's the one that got me to, like, really get kind of add a little bit and get in. So that guy again paid $19 on that second ad, and again hit the double by 45 minutes into the day today.
Right. Right.
I mean, and actually went higher. I mean, so
Right.
I cleared out. I think that was my last sell, is why I notated it.
Right.
Um, but just again, like, following that kind of action, it's like that is so reliable.
Yeah.
Like, really size order like that, and it's just perfect. Or I want to pull up one more quick thing too, and we'll get into maybe a chart. But I want to post the Netflix action too, because that was really good. Speaking to repeat activity coming in, there was yeah, these are all on Friday towards the end of the day that this guy came in and bought. Gosh, I don't know if it was one guy or, again, multiple, but Here, I think it just went through for you. Yeah, so here on Amazon, or on Netflix rather, again, what I'm looking for is, again, short term. So this guy's coming in, this was Friday, so a week out, playing this Friday's expiration. I believe Amazon, I didn't have the reference prices here, but I believe it was, or Netflix rather, it was at 358 or something, probably 359. So again, it's just slightly out of the money. This is not, for my system in particular, I don't look for a 390 call a week
Hmm.
out. That's 20
Hmm.
cents. A
Hmm.
little bit different game, and it's not as reliable. So I try to bank on what I've seen to be reliable. So again, repeat, this guy put in, what was that, 7,000, like 2,000 contracts at this line.
Right.
And sure enough, by this morning, that was a pretty clean double.
Right.
So that's, again, those are the really, really good, uses of flow that I look for. One
And you've
order, yeah, good.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one order, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but repeat activity like that, it's definitely something to take note. And if you compare with any type of technical pattern, basic, wedges or whatever, it's really, really, really powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we don't we don't really talk much about technical analysis, and so I think that means that some people draw the conclusion that Sang Lucci and Wall Street Juice and whatnot that we're anti-technical analysis or anything. And I think for us, we that's not the case. Lucci teaches basic technical analysis in the course. I think where we differentiate ourselves is that we believe that a strategy is going to be, and your the high probability setups are going to come much more often when you are layering technical analysis alongside something else. So in your case, we're talking about flow. Obviously, with Lucci, goes down even into tape reading. And when you get to know these names to the degree that you do, I mean, you do the same thing that I think Lucci does. You have a watch list of around 15 or 20. Sometimes you have a wider watch list outside of that you're rotating names in and out of, but you really get to know how these names move. And I mean, Lucci has relationships with some of these names. I mean, like Priceline is
Yeah,
like an ex-girl. It's like an evil ex-girlfriend to him that
totally.
like I know that he has letters written to Priceline, like, stored away in his journals somewhere. I mean, he like you develop, how these things move. And as you said, that means how flow is going to impact them differently, right? And Lucci knows how certain market makers, he can see in the tape how certain market makers that make markets in these names are acting in the patterns that they engage in. And that means that he is so much more able and confident to pull the trigger on trades in these names compared to if you're, and a lot of technical analysis guys are out there looking at hundreds of charts, each night and looking for the right patterns and hopping in. And that works for a lot of people. That's totally fine if that works for you. But I think for us, and it sounds like for you, that just it doesn't make as much sense. You don't feel like they have
Yeah, no,
consistent.
and speaking of that, like, so the tech, when I was trading kind of more purely off of technicals before I found the flow, it, like, I had to be so perfect on entries, so disciplined on my system and what I look for to make money. But if like, but now incorporating the flow, I mean, it's when you pair the two together, it's such a higher, probability of success. If you want to pull up what I just posted, um, uh, it's a chart at Google here, and a lot of guys in the room know that I was posting this trade. Really good trade that encapsulates what I look for. So you have like a little wedge formation here. This is a 30-minute, or you could have used an hourly chart. Really kind of nice consolidation, and even some of the market was pulling in during some of this section, and Google was just kind of hanging around. So it was showing some relative strength. And although we didn't get a sweeper in particular on Google, I did want to share with people that may have not, heard one of the webinars I just did kind of post close the other day. But what I really look for, Charlie, is as far as kind of my ideal trade is, let's say you've got like not a short term, trend line or a pattern. This is a nice one. It built up over, what, a week and a half, I think it was, or whatever, actually 3 weeks or something. So it had been established for a while. It had multiple touches on both sides, was building a lot of tension, and then
Right.
once it broke out, here's what I have found to be really, really good on a swing basis. And these are like, if I could only trade these, I'd be totally happy, and I'd probably be on a beach somewhere sipping mai tais and not still trading. So what it is like day one is my entry, and whether that means it kicks off the first opening, let's say, candle in the morning, or whether that into the close that hits, that's your day one entry. You hold day two, and then you look to sell and unload on day three in the maybe opening kind of hour and a half zone. And again, you're not going to catch like the peak of the peak, but just as far as I go with what's reliable, like and repeatable. And so I've seen this 3 day system for the swing trades be a really, really good, system again. But it's got to be, you can't use a 5 minute trend line or a 5 minute pattern to really, dictate, this kind of a thing. It really needs to be something kind of, a week or 10 days. And again, longer the pattern, the more powerful the breakout. So,
Right.
yeah, I hope that helps.
Gotcha.
But,
Gotcha.
and then,
Gotcha.
go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say we got some questions coming in here, and we're starting to get into more of this. So let's
Yeah,
yeah, let's keep guys ask if you have questions, keep it coming in here because Tim will take a couple of them at the end of this.
sure. Yeah, let me go into one more quick like good technical thing, and then we can and then I'll just open up to questions and whatever. But
Yep.
yeah, so the again, if you guys have any questions, you can get a hold of Luch or Charlie as far as what patterns again that I look for. That's a lot longer process to go through, patterns and how to analyze and the whole thing, and going into open interest and that. But speaking to something we touched off first, mentally, I really want to not only call out trades that work, but call out trades that don't. And so, because I think that's really like guys on Twitter just they post all this fake shit. Like, dude, not every guy out there is winning. In fact, it's probably the opposite.
Right.
So I like to, bring up examples that are helpful in that respect. And one in particular, where if you actually could have cleared you were wrong. If you would have cleared your mind, go for a walk. Actually, Ranchero, I think, was actually was involved in this particular trade. Let me post the chart. It was on Boeing, and last Friday, the looked like, and I had posted a video, and I'd encourage anyone to if message me or like I said, a Lucci or Charlie, because I had like 18 setups on Friday. I think I posted the video on Sunday over the weekend, and
Okay.
it's a really good synopsis of what I look for using technical analysis, flow that came in throughout the week, and like 18 or 17 of those 18 were like doubles. I mean, it's like, so that was a really good, I got very fortunate, but that's a really good resource for people if they're just getting into the game or want to learn without going over every particular example. So I'll say that
Got
to
it.
just kind of go into this one. So here's Boeing here. So you got it pulled up. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So you can tell that I had this trend line drawn above, and a lot of names, like I said, broke out on Friday, and so did Boeing. So I took a position, and there was even some sweepers to confirm, and um, I sure enough we had the news of, I mean, really sad and tragic, and of the plane crash. And you guys who trade actively know the 737 max 8, I believe it is, might have a flaw in it. There was a big worry, so Boeing gapped down a ton.
Yeah.
Now I believe it was Ranchero. He was obviously like one of the best traders in the room. We were both just like, oh, we were so upset. And I said something to him. I said, you know what? This only comes from experience and tons of hurt that you can learn something like this, in my opinion. But I said, hey, let's go be angry. We're going to be in pain a little bit on this particular trade. So go be upset as much as you need to, whether it's 5 minutes, yell, scream, an hour, and
Right.
then come back fresh. Like,
Right.
come in Monday morning ready to freaking make some money and some good trades. And the cool thing is if you were, and you weren't biased to where you were on that first position, or shit, it was like, went from, I don't know, $4 to like 20. It was gone. Like, you had to literally just consider it a goner. But if you came in, you can see in that posting, a guy came in on repeat orders. This was just the one that I gravitated to on the gap down on Boeing. Came in and hit the 400 calls, um, and the March 400s, which were expiring last week, and hit him for, yeah, $3. I think you actually could have, the best entry you could have got, because it popped pretty quickly, but it was like $3.50. You could have gone in for 350, and I got a few contracts there, and so that was nice, and like a 10 lot or something, not full position but enough, and looked again for my double, and caught the double in the in 45 minutes or even
Right.
30 minutes or so. So it's like,
Not a bad, not a bad hold period for
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah, for that return.
more than pays up for the last position. Like if you again coming in fresh, like that was a trade that did not work.
Yeah.
Technical analysis, flow looked great. A lot of other names that I reviewed on the Sunday night kind of free webinar I posted, they all worked. They were crushing. And if I
Right.
would have let this one trade, and I've done it before, if I would have let this one trade, this one loss, muddy everything else, I would have sold too early, and the other ones would have been upset, totally screwed my day up. And I've had days where I've come in with such good positions and I've totally screwed it up just
Right.
because of the bias. So if you
Right.
can, I would really encourage new traders and even, veterans out there, if it's not going that well for you to like, if you get upset, and Lucci does this so well, like, dude, especially the one day he took like a 50K loss a few days ago, like he
Right.
had the discipline to know who he was and go, look, I'm not trading well. I gotta go. Whether that's a 5 minute walk or or a 3 month break, you gotta do what you
Yeah.
gotta do for your own mental psyche and then come back refreshed. And then, dude, you can make as much as you want to.
Right.
We gotta get so it's that was a really, I think, unique example of something that, hey, didn't work initially, but if you stayed strong, you could have been really fortunate and made back more than your losses. So
And that goes back to the mental capital thing that we were talking about before, being able to kind of constantly refresh that mental capital and having that skill set. And then also just having the confidence in what you're making your decisions off of and putting in the hours, and in the experience and learning how, the markets work, how flow works, and really having the experience of trying out various different things so that when your process doesn't produce profits on any given day, you don't throw everything out the window and go back to the
yeah,
drawing board.
jump to the next thing, and yeah,
Yeah, you're not like going back onto Twitter and looking for the next guy who's selling, some one, two, three steps for profits kind of, strategy. So you have confidence in your process and what you're doing. And that is, I'll use this as an opportunity to
yeah,
give a quick plug to the master course, which is starting up 1 week from today. And this is one of the reasons we're having guys like Tim on here, is to explore subject matter that we go very in depth into in the master course with Lucci. So at this point, guys, you probably know a lot about it. But if you don't, you can go to www.sanglucci.com/MC750, and that'll give you the link to the master course with the $750 off. We are limiting this to 10 more people. All right, so 10 more people between now and this time next week. I know how a lot of traders work. We've done this before. A lot of people like to sit and wait, and pull the trigger at the last minute because that's just the way people go. But I encourage you not to do that. One, because these spots that we set aside always do fill up at this lower price point, and two, we also start your free. We'll give you free access to the Steam Room. You get a free month of access, no matter what, once you sign up. But we'll start your free access today, whenever you sign up. So if you sign up now, you get free access all the way up until for the rest of the week. That's worth the Steam Room is $225 a month. So that's money in your pocket right there. Why not get started and do it now, if you know you're going to join? So you get everything that we offer: the 12 live sessions, the 4 live tape reading sessions, recordings, lifetime access to everything, the whole shebang. You can see all this on the product page. We've also got Ranchero coming on, who's going to be on with me tomorrow, teaching a special course around his strategy of trading around long-term positions, which is going to be really, really fucking cool. I'm excited for that. And then we also have.
I'm so glad you threw out an F bomb, by the way. Brown, I told Brown I'd throw one out, so thank you for.
Right, right. Yeah,
There.
no, I mean, you have to. It's how could we talk about Sang Lucci without throwing out an F bomb? So, yeah, we'll have him coming on teaching an extra course. That's going to be amazing. We've got Lucci teaching an extra class about hedging. This is the best that the master course has ever been, and we're going to have people who signed up months ago, even years ago, coming back to this one because you get lifetime access. So take advantage of it, guys. We got. No. Someone just asked in the chat, is it for $750? No, it's $2,750, so $2,750, but that's a $750 discount from the usual asking price of $3,500. We do payment plans if that's something that would help out. And for people in the Steam Room, we also have an extra discount for you. So just email me, charlie@sanglucci.com, if you guys have questions around this. whatever you need, we'll get it sorted out and get answers for you. And Yeah, I mean, I think that covers the spiel. Let's get into some questions here for Tim.
Yeah.
Before we step away. So let's start here. I mean, we had a question around risk management, right? So,
Yeah.
for you, how are you approaching risk in relationship to the size of the trades you're putting on and your account size? And I don't know if you want to give an example of theoretically a $10,000 or $100,000 account and kind of break it down from there, or if you want to talk about your own, account size and trading, whatever works, best for you.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a lot based on I have a particular let's say standard size that I look to trade. It's that you can't be perfect, but I try to implement for each trade. I will say though that I do have I would really caution against people being all over the map. Having one trade that's, let's say, a $10,000 account. So having one trade that's 3,500 and then one trade that's $500. Like you have to standardize things as much as you can, because then it goes back to your likelihood of success really is more dependent on your process over the long term, which you want it to be. Because one trade, anything, like, dude, the Amazon sweeper today could have totally fallen on his face. And so, that for me, I really look to on an order like that, just speaking of real specifics. So knowing that a 1.7, those are two orders in particular, but the back-to-back orders in Amazon being so rare, only a week out of expiration, like
Right.
that to me, that was literally, it was a 9.5 out of 10. And the only reason why it wasn't was because I have a little bit of bias that I can't believe we haven't pulled back more. Okay, just being honest. And then
Right.
two, that just the size in particular is obviously a lot, but I didn't have a technical pattern, that was more. I mean, there was some technical levels, but it wasn't like, hey, there was this really nice little wedge formation that was breaking out. There was some resistance areas that are breaking out, but it wasn't the perfect of the perfect, but it was real
Right.
close. And
Right.
so for example, on that one, I want to make sure that I get in on something like that on the ones that are, 9 or 10 out of 10. I want to get in pretty heavy initially. So I'll get like 80% of a position, or actually even just get in fully, especially if it's something that's quasi liquid. And this one wasn't too bad. So I think I had 8 contracts total. I think I had 5. I even just market ordered like right off the bat, like right when I saw that big sweep. I'm like, you know what? I could be wrong, but hey, I want to get in.
Right.
I don't want to miss this. And then I think I added 3 more, I believe, when that second one came in for $19, and so got my cost down a little bit. But then again, the metrics of how I trade really depend on this. It's interesting, just from what I've learned, Charlie. And I'd love to maybe put out a little worksheet or something for people so they can see it more linearly. But it depends on the order. So it's like, just again, it seems a little bit crazy, but based on what I've seen, like let's take SPY for example. Let's say you've got like a $1.5 million sweeper, or 8 sweepers of that size total back to back. Like, let's say 2 days out, really, really good, maybe technical pattern. So what I'll do is I'll get in something. If that's exactly what I look for, I'll get in pretty much everything, maybe 80%. But if that contract, let's say, is like around $1, I will really look to capitalize a double. I'm going to look for to sell it for $2.
Right.
Now, with a stop around, usually about 60% is my stop. So you can say, hey, you want to risk every dollar, and some guys you totally can. And the system for me still probably is profitable at that rate, letting it go to zero. But I do
Yeah.
like to protect capital when you can. You're talking about risk management.
Yeah.
I do like to have some type of stop in there, and so again, it's really dependent on the premium size. So like this particular order, I didn't go. The guy pays again $19 and $20. I'm actually not thinking that guy is going to go for a double. Like it's a huge order. It's perfect. Get it. Um, I'm actually looking for. Hey, I'm taking most of my stuff off at 50% on that order.
Right.
Just from what I've seen. And again, it's so premiums that are like, let's say, just slightly out of the money or at the money, where it's like, hey, you're getting let's say $1 to 250. Like those are the ones I really go for the doubles at. And then
Hmm.
ones that are maybe like deeper in the money, or you're paying $5, $6, $8, $10. Um, those are a different strategy for me. It's a little more conservative. I tend to take profits a little earlier in those trades, and that's just again something I've seen. I know we can't go into every example right now. We don't have time, but if you guys have questions, I can get you a little something to help you with specifics of that. So
Yeah, guys, if you have more, we've been going for a good bit here, so we'll take one more question from everybody. But if you have questions for Tim, feel free to hit us up, Lucci@sanglucci.com, or sorry, contact@sanglucci.com, or email me directly, Charlie@sanglucci.com, and we'll get them answered for you. All right, so let's do one more here. One more question. This is a good one from Andrew. How do you mentally get out of not being able to accept the risk and properly executing the order on a setup?
not being able to get out of the risk, is that?
How do you mentally get out of not being able to accept the risk? So like, how do you mentally wrap your mind around what has been your process for wrapping your mind around accepting the risk that you're putting on and then, executing through it? Like there's always a tentativeness when you're crossing that threshold, right? To actually pulling the trigger. How have you?
Totally. No, I think that's a great question. When it clicked for me was when I literally went back to, hey, this, although like I've said recently, hey, I try to have a little bit of a stop to preserve some capital. I look at what the trade cost me, real quick calculation, try to get it around my standard size or whatever. Like, I'm like, you know what? I have like that. I've learned, it's been so hard, but I've learned to just that is it. Like
Yeah,
I'm willing to let it go. And if I'm not willing to lose the whole thing, the trade will screw with me somehow. It totally will. I mean,
yeah,
that's like I was
and that's
telling.
it. And that comes to managing your size, right? I mean, you're not putting your
Yep,
entire account at risk when you're pulling the trigger on these things.
totally. Even if it's a perfect, like I only had I think some people know I only had 8 contracts, and not only, but 8 contracts at that Amazon price. And
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, that was, you know, again, technical setup aside, that was exactly what I looked for. I would
right,
love to just dump like 80K in that thing, and that you
right,
wouldn't, the market maker wouldn't have blinked. I could have totally got liquidity on it. And but that's not smart, dude. If it opens if it pulls back 1 point, I'm gonna be watching every tick, nervous, like just that's not the way to do it. It's like
yep,
you can make
yep,
so. Let me just to encourage some people out there. Speaking to specifics, you can make, just following at least how I interpret the flow and technicals. You can make trading like $2,500 is your average size. Like, dude, you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, if
right,
not more, like if you're really
right,
like disciplined
right.
about it.
Yeah,
It does not mean you have to be throwing out $30,000 on your average position.
yeah.
It's
You don't have to trade Lucci size to make a really good amount of money, on an annual basis, and to just accrue ridiculous experience and self-understanding and self-awareness of what works for you. And then comes in sizing up more. When you have the account size and you have the experience, and that's something that Lucci talks about in the course. That's an even different animal, is when you really start sizing up. But you shouldn't be, I think you would agree with this. No one should be thinking about how to get size in a name until they are, pretty deep into their trading journey here, and until they've really understood some things about themselves and what works for them and what doesn't, and they have the account size to be able to take on that kind of size. You don't want to get over, ahead of yourself in that game.
no, and again, like that, I think one of the weirdest metrics, but totally something I've found true, is once you get, again, the metrics of actually, hey, entering position, getting out, especially on the premium selling side, which Ron will deal with, but you got to really know your shit there. But as far as like once you have a trade that you make and your process was perfect, but the outcome was shitty, like, and you're not upset about it, you have made, like, that is a huge leap. So for anyone who's like done that, like,
Right.
I know it feels like shit a little bit because, hey, the reality is you did lose money, but that is such a huge leap mentally that if you can get to that place, that's huge, huge, huge. And
Yeah.
again, focus on that process. And I think people, real quick, couple bullet point items, Charlie, real quick, is on the process side. There are times like you have to be hyper focused in this game. And if you want to if you're not messing around, but if you want to try to look at other names, for example, like if I go outside of my, 18 names or so, I have a couple flex positions. So if there's massive flow in one name or chance, I'll throw it in there, but I'm not going to look at the whole market. And it's the same that I can give to you guys. You don't want to be changing jumping from strategy to strategy every week. But you know what? There is some value in, hey, peeling back, maybe on a long weekend or a holiday weekend, peeling back and go, hey, look, let's analyze how I've done the last, 5, 6 months. How has the strategy performed?
Right.
And make an honest assessment. And then if it's not performing, say, you know what, I'm going to experiment for like a month. I'm going to explore some things. But then after that month, no, I'm going to narrow it back down and go, hey, look, what have I learned? You can't stay out in the nebula jumping
Right.
from ship to ship, dude. You'll be killed.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes, totally. I think that ending on that note on, maintaining a sense of focus and especially on your process and being willing to like take that leap from time to time, but also don't get, don't get too trigger happy and don't expand out too far. Like you got to keep sort of bringing focus back in, on a intermittent basis. That's a good note to leave on, guys. So,
Can we do just like the 2 bullet points mentally?
oh yeah, sorry, go for it. Yes, yes.
I
No
don't
need to cut you
for a
short.
long time.
Yeah.
Just a couple last points mentally that I didn't touch on earlier. I wanted to make sure that I got across.
Yeah.
So again, guys, there's a couple awesome quotes that I've experienced in my career and stuff. The one guy, Jim Rohn, not Rohn, really good business philosopher years ago, and said something. Hey, don't wish you were easier. Wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. Like flip it. Stay positive because you create your fears in your mind. And so if you're fearing losing, if you're like whatever it is, like again, I'm as flawed as anyone out there. So don't. I'm just saying something that I've learned from men much smarter than I am is that you just be so careful of your mind, protect your mental capital, like
Yeah.
and you know what? And trying something and failing is so much better than not trying at all. Like, so if you've tried and maybe it's not for you or it is, like, hey, props to you guys. Like the pain of regret is way worse to me than, the pain that it takes in this discipline and learning this business. But like, hey,
Yeah.
so I'll kind of leave it at that. And again, most importantly, guys, try to have fun with this. It's like, view it as a challenge, laugh, like let's create some humor and keep it light because, we got one shot at this whole thing and it's just nothing, the less stressed you can be and the more you can create some fun atmosphere, the better. So
And
I'll
that's
leave it there.
and that I think is one thing that the steam room really does offer for a lot of people is like, it's serious in there and people make a lot of money and of course lose money and talk about serious stuff, but there's also like a lot of humor. And that's one of the best parts about being around traders and being in communities because traders are fucking nuts and they're hilarious and they're very opinionated and that's definitely something you get in the master course too, right? I mean, if anybody knows Lucci, he has this way of being able to keep things light while also getting really, really intense. And what we've been talking about in this webinar of learning skill sets, of having a process of, really gathering the resources that you need to have a fair shot and a fair shake at this game. That's what the master course is all about. So tape reading, flow trading, options, Lucci's approach to trading psychology, putting to work a lot of the stuff that Tim's talked about in this webinar that he's come to in his own way. And then being able to kind of combine that all together and execute in a way that makes the most sense for you. That's what it's all about. So guys, if you have any more questions for Tim, feel free to email me, charlie@sanglucci.com. We'll get them answered for you. If you are interested in signing up for the master course, email me as well. But we also have 10 spots left at that $750 discount point. So www.sanglucci.com/MC750. You can check that out. So Tim, thank you, man. Thank
Oh,
you so
thanks.
much for being on here. Yeah, awesome to just get you on a bigger platform for people to hear your perspective and your voice on this stuff. I think it really helps out a lot of people. I know it does because we hear that. So thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Yeah, humbled again. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Word. Thanks, Tim. All right, guys, we'll see you soon.